If you watched our last video on the best premium flip front helmets of 2026, you'll already know that the Shoei Neotec 3 came out on top. But that naturally leads to a bigger question. Now that it's been on the market for nearly 3 years, is the Neotec 3 still the benchmark, or are the other premium modular helmets starting to catch up? I'm Jamie from Moto Central, and in this video, we're doing a proper deep dive into the Shoei Neotec 3. Not another top 5, not a quick overview, and not just a read through of the spec sheet. We're looking at why this helmet has become such a big deal, why it still does really well in 2026, where it's improved over the Neotec 2, and whether it still deserves to be one of the first helmets people look at when they want a premium flip front. Because that's really where the Neotec 3 sits now. It's not the new kid on the block anymore. It's already had time to establish itself. Riders have lived with it, toured in it, commuted in it, compared it against its rivals, and by this point, the market's had enough time to work out whether Shoei actually got it right. And that matters, because the Neotec 3 was never about reinventing the modular helmet. Shoei didn't try and turn it into something totally different. They took a formula that was already massively successful with the Neotec 2 and refined it, reworking the visor system, improving the sun visor, revising the venting, and putting a lot of focus into making the helmet quieter and more polished overall. That's why this helmet still matters. It sits right in that premium sport touring sweet spot where a lot of riders want one helmet that can do everything. Commuting, touring, weekends away, everyday road riding. This is the kind of helmet that people buy when they want something convenient, properly high-end, and easy to live with long-term. And that's a big shift in itself, because flip front helmets used to be seen as practical, but not exactly exciting. They were the sensible option, the convenient option, but the premium end of the market has changed that. And the Neotec 3 is one of the cleanest examples of how far modular helmets have come. This isn't just about convenience anymore, it's about refinement, usability, safety, comfort, and how complete the overall package feels. On paper, the Neotec 3 gives you a lot. Shoei's AIM shell, ECE 2206, and P&J homologation, an internal sun visor, pin lock in the box, improved ventilation, a stainless steel micro ratchet system, revised sealing around the helmet, and full integration for dedicated comm systems. So it absolutely looks like a premium product, but as always, that's only half the story. Because what really decides whether a helmet is worth buying is how it all comes together in the real world. Does it still feel like one of the best built modular helmets on the market? Has Shoei genuinely improved on the Neotec 2 in the areas that matter? Does it still justify the price? And if you're comparing it with something like the Schuber C5, the HJC Alpha 91, the Shark Oxo, or the LS2 Advan X, does it still earn the top spot? The Shoei Neotec 3 isn't new anymore, which actually makes this more interesting. The early hype doesn't matter now. What matters is whether after real use and real competition, it still stands up as one of the best premium flip front helmets you can buy. And if you're into proper gear breakdowns like this, hit subscribe, because we do this kind of thing all the time. So in this video, we're going to break it all down properly. Before we get into how the Neotec 3 actually feels to live with, we need to talk about what Shoei have actually changed. Because if you're coming from a Neotec 2, or you've been looking at one, this is probably the biggest question. And the honest answer is this: it's not a completely new helmet. It's an evolution. That might sound a bit underwhelming, but it's actually exactly what you'd expect from Shoei. They don't tend to reinvent things for the sake of it. The Neotec 2 was already one of the most complete modular helmets on the market, so instead of starting again, they've focused on refining the areas that matter. The first and most obvious change is the move to ECE 2206. That alone means the Neotec 3 is a safer helmet. The testing is more demanding. It now includes angled impacts as well as direct ones. And things like the visor locking system are now part of the requirements. So straight away, this is a more modern helmet in terms of safety standards. What's interesting though, is that Shoei have managed to do this without making the helmet noticeably bigger or heavier. Normally, when helmets move from 2205 to 2206, you see a bit of a jump in size or weight. But with the Neotec 3, it's pretty much negligible. And that's impressive, because it means you're getting that extra level of protection without compromising the overall feel of the helmet. The second big focus is noise and refinement. Shoei have clearly spent a lot of time trying to make this helmet quieter than the Neotec 2, and they've done that in a few different ways. The neck roll has been tightened up, especially around the back, to reduce air getting into the helmet. The flip front sits more flush against the shell, which helps reduce turbulence, and even the internals around the sun visor mechanism have been adjusted to cut down the resonance near the ears. Now, like we always say, noise is massively dependent on the bike that you ride, your height, your screen, and how well the helmet fits. But what Shoei have done here is try to control as many variables as they can on the helmet side. How much difference that makes will still depend on the rider, but the intention is clearly there. Then you've got the visor system, which is probably one of the most noticeable changes day to day. It's now got a centre locking mechanism, which again comes from the 2206 requirements. It seals really well, which helps with both noise and water ingress. But it's one of those features that not everyone is going to love straight away. If you're used to lifting your visor from the side, it takes a bit of getting used to, especially with thicker gloves. The internal sun visor has also been improved. It drops down further than it did in the Neotec 2, which sounds like a small thing, but it actually makes a big difference in use. You're less likely to catch the bottom edge of your eye line, and it just feels more usable in bright conditions. Venting has been tweaked as well. Although this is probably more of a refinement than a major upgrade, you now get more adjustment, particularly on the chin vent. But this isn't a helmet that's suddenly going to feel massively more ventilated than before. The focus here is still very much on balance, keeping airflow reasonable without increasing noise too much. Another small but worthwhile change is this chin strap. It's thinner, softer, and the ratchet system is more compact. That matters more than people think, especially on a modular helmet where the strap sits slightly further back and can sometimes feel a bit intrusive. This just makes it more comfortable for longer rides. And then you've got the comms setup. Like the Neotec 2, this helmet is designed around an integrated system rather than a universal bolt-on. Everything is pre-channeled, speakers sit properly in place, and the controls are designed to sit flush with the shell so you don't get that bulky add-on look. Originally, this was built around the SRL 3 system from Sena, which is still the main integrated option. It fits completely inside the helmet, it's very discreet, and it keeps everything looking clean. But now, that's not the only option anymore. There are now Shoei-specific integrated systems available from Cardo as well, which gives you a bit more flexibility, depending on which one you prefer. And that's actually a big deal, because a lot of riders already have a preference when it comes to comms, whether that's Sena or Cardo. So instead of being locked into one of these ecosystems, you've now got a choice. You can still go fully integrated and keep that clean look, but pick the best system that suits you. And that's a nice step forward, because a few years ago, that wasn't even an option. So when you step back and look at it as a whole, none of these changes on their own are massive, but together they tell you exactly what Shoei are trying to do. They weren't trying to reinvent the Neotec, they were trying to make it quieter, slightly more comfortable, and a bit more refined, and bring it up to the latest safety standards without losing what already made it so popular. And that's really the key takeaway here. If you're expecting something completely different from the Neotec 2, this isn't that. But if you like what the Neotec 2 offered and just wanted a more polished version of that, this is exactly what this is. If you're currently using a Neotec 2, this isn't necessarily a must upgrade for everyone, but if you want a newer safety standard, a bit more refinement, and a slightly quieter overall feel, that's where the Neotec 3 sits, and it starts to make a lot of sense. Now, this is the part that matters more than anything else with any helmet, and it's something that we see every single day in the shop: fit. It's probably the number one reason people end up changing helmets, because you can talk about specs, safety ratings, materials, features all day long, but if a helmet doesn't fit your head properly, none of that even matters. It's not the right helmet for you. And this is where something like the Shoei Neotec 3 really starts to make sense, because Shoei are one of the best in the business when it comes to fit. In terms of head shape, the Neotec 3 generally sits in that neutral to slightly intermediate oval range, so for most riders, it's quite accommodating. It's not as long and as narrow as something like an Arai, but it's not round either. It sits right in the middle ground where it works for a lot of people straight out of the box. But where Shoei really stands out is how adjustable the fit is. You've got different thickness cheek pads, different centre pads, everything is removable, washable, and even more importantly, swappable. So you've got slight pressure points, or you need to tighten things up slightly, there's a lot you can do to dial this helmet in properly. And that's a big part of why these helmets tend to feel so comfortable long term. And on top of that, this is where something like Shoei's personal fitting system comes in. Because realistically, even with all those different pad options, not every head shape is the same. And that's why we offer the Shoei PFS in store. It allows us to actually customize the internal fit of the helmet properly, adjusting pressure points, improving stability, and basically making the helmet fit in a way it's supposed to. And not every helmet or brand gives you that level of adjustability. So instead of trying a helmet on and thinking, that's close enough, you can actually get it dialed in to fit your head properly. And that can make a massive difference, not just in comfort, but also in noise, stability, and how the helmet performs overall. Because a helmet like this, when it's fitted properly, feels completely different compared to one that just feels about right. Now, in terms of comfort, this is exactly what you'd expect from Shoei. The interior is plush without being overly soft. It holds its shape well over time. And it's the kind of helmet that you can wear for long rides without it becoming irritating. But there are a couple of things worth mentioning that people don't always think about. First is the neck roll and how snug this helmet feels when you put it on, because Shoei have tightened things up compared to the Neotec 2, especially around the back. It can feel quite close fitting when you first try it. That's partly why it helps with noise reduction, but it does mean that if you're used to a looser helmet, this might feel a bit different initially. Second is the chin strap position. Like most modular helmets, the strap sits slightly further back than on a full face. Shoei have improved this by making the strap thinner and softer, but depending on your neck shape, it's still something you want to try properly before committing. And then there's the glasses compatibility, which is a big one for a lot of riders. The Neotec 3 is generally very good here. There's enough space in the cheek pads to accommodate glasses without too much pressure, and once it's fitted properly, it tends to be very easy to live with. If you do wear glasses with your helmet, let us know what you're using. It's always interesting to see what works for different people. Now, who is this helmet actually for? If you're someone who does a mix of riding, commuting during the week, longer rides at the weekend, maybe the occasional trip away, this kind of helmet makes a lot of sense. It's designed to be easy to live with. Quick on, quick off, flip the front up at petrol stations, talk to people without taking it off, all the everyday usability stuff. It also works really well for touring riders if you're doing longer distances. Spending hours in the helmet, comfort and refinement start to matter a lot more than anything else. And that's exactly where this helmet is the strongest. But it's not the right helmet for everyone. If you've got a longer, narrower head shape, something like the LS2 Advant-X might suit you better. If you want the absolute quietest helmet possible and you're willing to trade off a bit of versatility for that, something like the Shoei C5 is definitely worth looking at. And if you're more focused on sporty riding and want something lighter and more aggressive, a modular helmet in general might not be the best choice. Fit matters more than any spec sheet ever will. So again, it comes back to the key point. The Neotec 3 is a very, very good helmet, but it's only the right helmet if it fits your head properly and suits the way you actually ride. And that's why, more than anything, getting the fit right is everything. Because once you do, that's when a helmet like this really starts to make sense. Now let's talk about one of the biggest talking points with the Shoei Neotec 3, noise. Because if you've looked into this helmet at all, you've probably seen people say it's one of the quietest modular helmets out there. It's probably one of the first things people ask in store. And that's partly true, but it needs a bit of context. The first thing to say is this: there is no such thing as a universally quiet helmet. Noise depends on too many variables: your height, your riding position, your bike, your screen, the airflow around you, and most importantly, how well the helmet fits your head. Two people can wear the same helmet and have completely different experiences. Let us know what you're riding in and what helmet you're using. It's always interesting to see how different setups affect noise. So instead of saying this helmet is quiet, it's better to look at what Shoei have actually done to try and reduce noise. And with the Neotec 3, that's clearly been a big focus. The main area they've worked on is reducing air getting into the helmet in the first place, because once air gets in and starts moving around, that's what creates the noise. So you've got the tighter neck roll, especially around the back, which helps seal the helmet more effectively. The flip front now sits more flush against the shell, which reduces turbulence, and even small details like repositioning parts of the sun visor mechanism and the comms area are all aimed at cutting down resonance near the ears. Individually, none of these changes sound massive, but together they're all targeting the same thing, making the helmet feel more stable and more refined at speed. And that's something you tend to notice more the longer you ride in it. And that's probably the best way to describe the Neotec 3. It doesn't just aim to be quiet, it aims to feel calm. When you're riding, especially at motorway speeds, what you notice isn't just raw noise level, it's how smooth the airflow feels around your head. less buffeting, less turbulence, less variation in sound, and that's where this helmet does a really good job. Now, compared to something like the Shoei C5, which is very heavily focused on noise reduction, the Neotec 3 is right up there. But the Shoei might still edge it for outright quietness for some riders. Where the Shoei tends to win is the overall balance. You get very good noise control, but without sacrificing usability, ventilation, or that generally all-round feel. And again, this is where fit comes back into it. A properly fitted Neotec 3 is going to feel noticeably quieter than one that's slightly loose. That tighter neck roll, the way it seals around your head, all of that only works properly if the helmet is actually fitted correctly. And that's exactly why things like custom fitting make such a difference here. Another thing worth mentioning is expectations. A lot of riders expect a quiet helmet to be silent, and that's just not realistic. At motorway speeds, you're always going to get wind noise, and realistically, if you're doing any kind of regular motorway riding, you should still be wearing earplugs, regardless of the helmet. The goal isn't to eliminate it completely, it's to reduce it to levels that are comfortable over time. And that's where the Neotec 3 does what it's supposed to do. It reduces fatigue, it smooths out the airflow, it makes longer rides easy to deal with. It's not trying to be silent, it's trying to be refined. So in real terms, is it quiet? For most riders, the answer is yes, especially if it fits properly. But more importantly, it feels stable, controlled, and well thought out at speed. And that's what you actually notice over time. So after everything we've gone through, let's break this down properly into what the Shoei Neotec 3 actually gets right and where it's not perfect. Starting with the positives. The biggest strength of this helmet is how complete it feels. There isn't really one standout gimmick or headline feature, it just does everything to a very high standard. It's not trying to win on one feature, it's trying to get everything right. Build quality is exactly what you'd expect from Shoei. The finish, the materials, the way everything operates, it all feels properly refined. Comfort is another big one. Once it's fitted properly, this is the kind of helmet you can wear all day without it becoming an issue. And that's a huge factor for the kind of riding this helmet is designed for. Then you've got the usability. The flip front mechanism is solid and easy to use. The internal sun visor is genuinely usable now. The ratchet system is quick and practical. And in terms of visibility, you've got the pin lock included as standard, along with things like the breath guard and chin curtain. It sounds like small stuff, but it actually makes a big difference in colder or wet conditions, especially here in the UK. It helps manage airflow through the helmet and keeps the visor clear, which is something you really notice on longer rides or commuting. And everything about it just feels designed for real-world riding rather than ticking boxes on a spec sheet. And then there's the styling and colour options, which people don't always talk about, but it does matter. The Neotec 3 comes in a good range of finishes, from your standard solid colours like black, white and grey, through to some of the more detailed graphics like the Anthem, Satori and Sharpen. So whether you want something subtle for everyday riding or something that stands out a bit more, there's a decent spread. And like most Shoei helmets, the finish quality is exactly what you'd expect. Paint, decals, clear coat, everything feels properly premium, not just something that looks good on day one. It's not the most aggressive or flashy helmet in terms of design, but that's kind of the point. It's built to be clean, modern, all-rounder that works for commuting, touring and everyday use without looking out of place. Noise and refinement are also a strong point. It's not just about being quiet, it's about how stable and controlled it feels at speed. Less turbulence, less buffeting, and overall it just feels like a very well sorted helmet. And then there's the integration. The way the comm system fits into the helmet, the way everything sits flush. It all adds to that clean, premium feel rather than looking like something bolted on afterwards. But it's not perfect. If you've been using one of these, let us know what you think, especially if you're coming from the Neotec 2 or something similar. The first thing is obviously the price. This sits right at the premium end of the market, and for a lot of riders, that's going to be a very big consideration. You are paying for refinement here, not just features, and that's not something everyone values in the same way. The visor system is another one. The centre locker mechanism does its job well in terms of sealing and safety, but it's not something everyone is going to love straight away. It can feel a bit fiddly, especially with thicker gloves, and it takes a bit of getting used to. Ventilation is also one of those areas where it is good, but it's not exceptional. This isn't a helmet built for maximum airflow. It's designed to balance airflow with noise reduction. So if you're riding in really hot conditions and want loads of air coming through, there are better options out there. And then there's the weight. It's not heavy for a modular helmet, but it's still a modular helmet. If you're coming from a lightweight full face, you are going to notice the difference. Finally, and this is the big one, it's not the perfect helmet for every rider. Fit is everything. And even though Shoei suits a lot of people, there will always be riders who are better suited to something else. And that's really what it comes down to. There are helmets that might beat this in one specific area. You might find something quieter. You might find something lighter. You might find something cheaper. You'll definitely find something cheaper. But it's very hard to find something that does everything as well, as consistently and as reliably as the Neotec 3. So after everything we've covered, where does that leave the Shoei Neotec 3 in 2026? Honestly, not much has changed. This is still one of the most complete premium flip helmets you can buy right now, and that's exactly why it came out on top in our last video. It's not the cheapest, it's not the lightest, it's not even the absolute quietest for every rider, but what it does better than almost anything else is balance. You've got strong build quality, very good comfort, solid noise control, loads of real-world usability, and a level of refinement that just makes it easy to live with day to day. And that's what most riders actually need from a helmet like this. Because the reality is, most people aren't looking for the most extreme option in one area. They want something that works across the board, something they can use for commuting, touring, weekends away, and just everyday riding without having to think about it. And that's exactly where the Neotec 3 fits. Now, that doesn't mean it's automatically the right helmet for everyone. If your priority is absolute silence, something like the Shoei C5 might edge it. If you want something a bit more budget friendly with strong features, the HJC Alpha 91 is definitely worth a look. If you prefer that full flip over versatility, then options like the Shark Oxo or the LS2 Advent X might suit you better. But if you're looking for a helmet that just gets everything right more consistently than anything else, the Shoei Neotec 3 is still one of the safest bets out there. And that's really the key point. It's not about being perfect, it's about being the most complete. Now looking ahead, it'll be interesting to see where Shoei takes this next. We're already starting to see more focus on integrated tech with things like the Shoei GTR 3 Smart coming through. So whether that eventually makes its way into something like a Neotec 4 or a future smart version of this helmet, it's definitely something to watch. But as it stands right now, the Neotec 3 still feels like a very current and very complete helmet. Now, if you're still deciding between this and the other premium modular helmets, that's exactly why we put together our full comparison video. In that one, we go through all 5 helmets side by side so you can see exactly how they differ in terms of fit, features, and where each one of those makes the most sense. I'll pop that up on the screen at the end of the video so you can take a look. If you haven't seen that yet, definitely go and check it out because that will give you the full picture before you make a decision. And if you've got any questions about the Neotec 3 or you've used one yourself, drop it in the comments. It always helps other riders who are trying to decide. As always, if you want to support the channel and see more videos like this, please give us a like and a subscribe. Thanks for watching, ride safe, and we'll see you in the next one. And I didn't do the fun thing. Oh.